Hi, I'm Sidhart Sogani from Crebaco, and we are going to talk about what we know about ICOs, STOs, and IEOs, which is a new craze. So, Crebaco is a credit rating agency for exchanges, blockchains, and coin offerings, and we evaluate a project based on the technology, financial, and the legal aspects. So the previous ideas of raising funds were VCs, angel investors, banks who used to look at the project after analyzing its books, and everything. Later on, crowdfunding came in, and now ICOs are the new thing to raise funds. It's easy, it's global, and it doesn't have a lot of compliances. So that gave a lot of loopholes to the people who are raising funds. In the last year, ICOs raised $22 billion, as per the report of Bloomberg, and 95% were scams. So that's almost like $21 billion went down the drain. Uh, that happened because there were no regulations, and because of that, a lot of people invested in the Bitcoin boom, which happened in the 2017-18 time frame. And because there was no regulation, people, they always they had that greed to make more money, and they invested and they lost all of that. But because they had no idea how to analyze a project, and there were no regulators who would uh, assess a project on its authenticity. So a lot of people sold blockchain as the keyword, and there was a project called Long Island Iced Tea Corporation in America, and they just renamed themselves, and their share price went up by 200% just by adding Long Island Blockchain Corporation. So why it happens is because of that, a lot of ICOs have lost trust. So, how many of you have invested in an ICO in the last 6 months? Anybody has invested in an ICO in the last 6 months? That's because people don't trust ICOs anymore, and the scammers have figured out a way with the new words called the initial exchange offerings and the security token offerings, which they claim they are more safe, more regulated, and more authentic. But that's not the case, because STOs are supposed to be similar to the traditional IPOs. For that, you need minimum profit for consecutive 3 years in most countries, as per the Securities Exchange Commission in the US. The company must own assets worth certain amount before going public. It has to be underwritten by bankers, by venture capitalists, or family offices before they go public, because that's the threshold which they build. And they should have minimum compliances and standards which they should follow. The team should be good enough to be able to handle that much of funds which are being raised. um, but in ICOs, in STOs and IEOs, that's not the thing. IEOs again is another thing, which is initial exchange offering. So in that case, you don't invest in the smart contract, but you invest into an exchange, which will in return give you the token which they are going to offer. But the exchanges are not regulated either. All are self-regulated, and there is no way an investor who's depositing millions of dollars into an exchange just on the basis of an email and few KYC documents. There is nobody regulating that exchange. Tomorrow, if Binance goes down, who would you sue? Because Binance is situated in a country where they themselves don't know where is the head office. They are, some say they are in Malta, some say they are in Singapore. They've changed their base locations a couple of times. So that's a major problem. And The in STO, the most important thing is when a security token is getting listed, it should get listed in something like a Nasdaq, and exchanges here are not regulated, so it cannot really work. So, looking at these things, the scams will continue. As per our research, we look at the Bitcoin bull run to come again in a couple of months, because the block reward will get halved again in 2020 mid. So whenever that takes place, about 4 to 5 months prior to that, the market starts going up again, and all the ICOs, STOs, or IEOs, they are just waiting for that period to come so that they can come up with their offerings, and that's when scams will happen once again. We are building a global standard because it's a global fundraising mechanism in ICOs. If you are sitting in Honolulu or Singapore or India or wherever, you can invest in a project irrespective of where you are located. And if your country is not supportive of cryptocurrencies, you won't be able to do it. And even if you do it, you're not covered with their country's regulation. So we are working with the World Economic Forum. We are working with a couple of countries, helping them draft a regulation where ICOs, STOs, IEOs, blockchain projects, exchanges get regulated together so that the investors don't lose their funds. And the idea of Crebaco is to build trust by reducing scams, so that that $21 billion which were down the drain, taken away by the scammers, don't happen again. Crebaco follows a systematic audit process. So we look at the legal, financial, and the technology. So we audit all three aspects in a system designed by the professional trading professional analysts like the S&Ps and the Moody's, and we follow the same format, and we have managed to apply it in Crebaco, and we are doing that very well. We are just 8 months old, and we've discovered really surprising facts about the industry, which is not pleasing at all. And we are working with a couple of policymakers, regulators, a few governments, and helping them adapt blockchain technology framework so that it can be done in a much more organized manner. We have just released the Crebaco 50. You guys can go and check it over there. It consists of about 40 tokens randomly selected by our system and 10 exchanges. And we had managed to collect a lot of information, but we have just printed 20% of it because our lawyers suggested that we cannot publish sensitive information which we have collected about those projects. I would request all of you to please go and check it out. It's really surprising, and we have planned to do this every quarter, so that 50 projects come in to picture every quarter, and it will help the investors, the VCs, the nascent investors, retail investors, in understanding what aspects we should look at while investing into such projects, because there's no regulator as such today. So that's it for today, I guess. And please look at the Crebaco 50. If you want a copy of it, you can mail us. We charge something for it because we don't want to give it out, to people who might misuse it. So that's the reason why we keep a track of who all have bought it. We charge a very minimal amount for it. If you want the book, you can go and buy it on Amazon as well, starting from next week. And that's it for now. Thank you so much for listening. See you around, and invest safely.